Welcome back, everybody. My name is Estics, and it's so nice to be back. Let's get right into it. The Fallout set just came out, and I'm looking at all these nice commanders. Oh, so many of them. But I had to pick one. So I already picked Mr. House in the last video, and now I'm going to pick a new one. Rose Cutthroat Raider. Rose reads First Strike and Raid. At the end of your combat, if you attacked this turn, create a junk token for each player you attack this turn. You can create up to 4 junk tokens per combat phase. That's 1 card for each one of those. The commander just lets you get out as many stuff as you can. Red's good for pumping up your creatures so you can essentially make yourself look terrifying before you even get the abilities off for your commander. Now let's talk about treasures. When running red, you always want to be running treasure ramp, and that's because treasures are pretty prevalent in red. They're everywhere. Beamtown Beatstick, you got sticky fingers, you have a bunch of them. There's a ton. But whenever you pair these up with creatures that are attacking for treasures or even attacking just for some damage, you want to make sure that you're attacking everyone on the board, and that makes her a little bit more fair than other commanders that are just singling out 1 or 2 people or getting way too out of control. This gets out of control by bullying everyone. So if someone sees an opening after you've attacked somebody, they are going to attack that person over you because you're red. Playing against just anything. These are your attacking creatures that ensure that you get 4 or plus triggers a turn. You really want to be attacking every single turn. You want to be consistent, and you also want to get stuff out of attacking. So the first creatures on my list are Krenko. All 3 of the Krenkos do something from attacking. Either attacking with the Krenko mob boss, which is probably the one you don't want to be attacking with, but you can get out your tokens that you're going to be attacking with. So it gives you more attackers. Go 10 Street Kingpin gets something out of attacking. He gets creatures out of attacking. And when you're in red, you have access to pump spells that are going to make everything a lot stronger as you go. You can even use Pinning Sword. Pinning Sword is something that gives you more attack for as many creatures are on the battlefield. And when paired up with Krenko, you're really doing a lot of damage with that, because you're not only doubling your power because you get creatures out for as much power as you have, you also get to create more. Krenko Baron of 10th Street, you can sacrifice an artifact. If you're not using your junk tokens, which you should be using your junk tokens, you can sacrifice them and you can give +1/+1s to each one of your goblins. So if you're running this deck, you could run a secret goblin tribal deck, which is actually super interesting, because if you are attacking with treasures and you want to do stuff with treasures, you can get out goblins, which love treasures. They love messing with treasures, and they also love messing with spells. So anything goblin, I think, will fit in this deck pretty well. Another one to get out is probably Pugnacious Pugilist. So this creature creates a 1/1 red creature token that is also a devil, that you also, if it dies, you get to do 1 damage to any creature or opponent. So that's just even more damage if it's getting blocked. You can also send that at a different person, create another junk token. Whenever you're creating junk tokens, you should be mindful of what else that you could do to create more and more as you go. A tally basically does the same thing that your commander wants you to do, but it gives you an extra one. So if you have a bunch of stuff in your red deck that you want to get out, that you want to really be powerful, and you have a lot of mana on board, boom, you draw up him, you attack, you also get a junk token, and then you get an additional drop. So I would recommend a tally for sure. Another card I would recommend is Gutthroat Soul Zealot. Sometimes it's a little hard to get some creatures out. With Gutthroat, you can turn your artifacts into creatures, giving you an extra attack, and then give you another artifact that also gives you another artifact later on. So you're basically just recycling. I would recommend this very much so. And depending on the stage of the game, it could really change the outcome. So if you're late stage and your opponent is really trying to keep up with you, you drop him, you get your another attacker out, it's going to be really hard for anyone to keep up. So anything that's going to give you extra combat turns is going to be really good. The one I recommend is Hexplate Wallbreaker. So basically you get an attacker whenever you drop this creature, and then on top of that you get to have another additional combat phase as long as it was your first one when you attacked. So You get to end your combat phase, and then you can do it again. That doubles your garbage tokens. All of your garbage all over the place. You're really living like a Redditor on this one. List number 2 is going to be cards that let you dig for even further into your deck and give you more. I recommend just running a lot of artifact ramp for this, because you want to keep tapping. Honestly, with no green available, you're not going to have any access to ramp except for treasures. So if you use treasures like constantly, yeah, that's great, but I recommend having some solid artifacts that are going to take up a little bit of space in your deck, but are going to make sure that you get to that 6-7 mana drop, so you can constantly dropping huge cards on your turn. And these are just some ways to get to those cards, so let's get into them. Most of these are going to be from the Fallout set, because you're going to be using junk tokens a lot, so you want to be accessing a lot of artifacts. One thing you could use is Junk Jet. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to create a junk token, which is pretty good. That's an extra junk. And then you get to pay 3 and sacrifice another artifact and double the equipped creature's power until end of turn. That's pretty good, especially if you're using something with like double strike or something, and you're able to get through, and then you get to double your power with red. That is incredible. You can really get something to like 15, 16 power just by using red pump, and red pump is really not that good if I'm being honest. But with an extra 3, you can easily turn that into 30, and then with double strike, you have an easy 60. I would really recommend something like this. So using Junk Jet is probably something that you want to use with double strikers or first strikers like your commander. This is not Voltron, but it feels like it, you know? It's Voltron, but it can run on its own. Your creatures around your commander really play with this deck, so you want to be playing those Pug Analysts, and you want to be playing those Krinkos, and just really want to be building around your commander, so you're not just focusing on one creature. The one creature is going to be very important, but with such a low cost, you want to be building up to getting all of the triggers off of that creature. And this is just one of those ways to just ensure that you could win the game after you've already pumped up your creatures. One of the creatures I recommend is Crimson Cavalier, which is really good because double strike and trample. If you used it with Junk Jet, that could be incredible after some pump. Whenever Crimson Cavalier deals damage, you get to create a junk token. Okay, that's another junk token on top. As long as you're attacking people with this and pumping it up with some Voltron action, I mean, your army is going to look out of control. You're just going to pump it, you're going to get more stuff off the top, and you're going to build around your commander without having to use your hand. Your hand is very good, but you want to be playing stuff that's going to just constantly be building. So you want to just constantly build, and then come off the top of your hand. And then, with red, there's a huge disadvantage because there's not a lot of card draw either. So keeping cards in your hand and waiting until after your combat phase to do anything, ensure that if someone just drops a destroy all creatures or destroy everything on the board, you have cards in your hand. You don't have to spend them. You get to keep them now. Next up, we have Veronica, Dissident Scribe, which has Menace, which is very good. Again, going around people instead of going through them is pretty good. Whenever Veronica, Dissident Scribe attacks, you may discard a card, and if you do, you get to draw a card. Again, if you don't like the cards in your hand, you get to cycle for more. That's very good, especially if you're creating junks to pop stuff off the top. You just get rid of the stuff in your hand, make sure you have good stuff in your hand, and, I mean, just a secondary backup ability. Not really anything that will win the game. You can play the things that are going to win the game for you. But you want to have a backup ability, so whenever you do get dropped, you get to have a backup. Whenever you discard one or more non-land cards for each turn, you get to create a junk token. Another junk token. There you go. You just get to dig in. A lot of people are like, I've done enough. I don't need any more good ones. I think I win the game. No, you don't. Yeah, you really don't. At any moment, if you're playing against a blue player, like mono, any other color is going to get out of control way faster than you, except for maybe white. If you're playing mono white, maybe it's going to get out of control token wise, but then you could just drop a Blasphemous Act because it's usually small tokens. But mono blue is going to shut you down. Mono green is going to shut you down, and mono black is just going to kill everything you own because you're doing the same thing as white where you're getting bigger, but it's fading away into the distance and you just won't be able to get it back. So another way just to get in, discard, go through your deck. The last card on this list is actually land, sure enough, and it's actually pretty good land. At least I think so. Junktown. I think Junktown has a lot of potential in this deck in particular. You get to tap for a colorless, so if you're playing mirrors or something, you get to tap for a colorless or whatever. And then for 5 mana, tap it, sacrifice it, and you get to create 3 junk tokens. Okay, that's a lot of mana, right? Yeah, but then you get to cast stuff off of the top of your library on the next turn. So after you've already used the potential of Junktown and you have a bunch of mana, just keep throwing it. Just something with this deck that you really have to keep into consideration is you have to have good threat analysis. Some people do not have good threat analysis. So you want to quickly get your eye on that person, run them down, and go to the next person. So really get better with thought analysis, okay? List number 3. These are artifacts that are just going to make everything a lot stronger. You're going to want to run these just to keep you going. You want to get through these guys, just like I said. Super easy, super simple. This is an enchantment that costs 5 mana, 2 red, Berserker's Onslaught. It's an enchantment that reads, attacking creatures you control have double strike. You're going to hit. Crimson Cavalier might hit twice, and now you have 2 junk tokens off of that one trigger. So now that you're attacking doubly, all of your big creatures are going to get even bigger. Buccaneers Bravado. Choose one. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn, or target pirate gets +1/+1 until double strike until end of turn. So if you're running something that's just gonna like attack and then you want it to kill your commander, commander damage for red pump, you get to attack. You give it double strike until end of turn, and then it hits twice. And if you get up to like 10 or something, and you're able to get it through, that's 20. You just beat them right off the face of the earth at that point. The next one is really exciting. Blood Mist, because that's awesome. That sounds like an awesome card. So this cool sounding card is really badass. I know it's actually 4 mana enchantment, and at the beginning of your combat of your turn, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Now we're coming up to the end. Something that I think is really fun is Arc Spitter. So let's say that you're attacking and you have a 5 attack creature, and someone has a 6 attack creature, but they only have like, I don't know, 2 defense, okay? Arc Spitter, you just tap 2 colorless mana and you kill it for 2, and then you get to just save another life. So you get to like knock down creatures that are bigger than yours just by paying some mana, and just like it just gives you a real big hand on attacking, because you sometimes never have to even touch another creature if you want to. And if you have first strike, you hit them, and then you see what they have left, and then you just, whenever you go to attack again, you just pay the mana. And something else is Gimli's Reckless Might. Another enchantment that reads, creatures you control have haste, and it has formidable. Whenever you attack, if a creature you control has total power 8, target a crashing creature fights up to 1 creature you don't control. That's just removal for red if you needed some, you know? Now, the last enchantment that I want to probably talk about is Stia Masquerade. It's an enchantment, and attacking creatures you control have first strike. That's really good with double strike too, if you don't know. Whenever a vampire you control deals damage, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. That's pretty good if you wanted to run vampires with this instead of goblins. And it also has Madness, where if you discard this card, discard it into exile, and whenever you do, you get to cast the Madness cost later on into your graveyard. That's pretty good. Anyway, but getting something with first strike and double strike, you get to hit them first, and then you get to hit them again, and then you have 2 times you get to do that. That's pretty dirty, if I'm being honest. Here's a couple bonus cards. That was the last one that we had. That gives you a pretty good setup for your deck. Usually just run cards that are similar to that, and you'll be pretty good. I know there's a lot of pump and everything that you want to use with this, but maybe artifacts is the way to go. And here's my bonus cards if you wanted some bonus. Dragon Spark Reactor. I don't know if you're going to run this just because you want to maybe swap it out for something a little more powerful in the deck or something, just so that whenever you cast it off the top, you get to cast something big instead of something small and insignificant for that turn. But this could be powerful if you get it early game. Whenever Dragon Spark Reactor or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on it. Pay for colorless mana and sacrifice it, and it deals damage equal to the number of charge counters that you control on it, on a player and a creature. So you get to pick a creature, remove it, and you get to deal damage from all those junk tokens that you've been hoarding this whole game. You've been doing a lot, and at some point you can just drop this for 40. Yeah, it's easy to get to 40 when you're doing treasures and junk. Are you kidding me? You're getting 4 or 5 just from your creatures, and then you drop some treasures on top of it by Beamtown Beatstick or Sticky Fingers like I mentioned earlier, that's a lot of artifacts that are just dropping on. And if you're using goblins, that they love it. If you're using vampires, they love sacrificing stuff. Even though there's not a lot of red vampires, I would keep that in mind. If you're playing some mirrors and you wanted to play it on this deck, you could play some mirrors. You get to attack. They are kind of similar to rows, if you know what I mean. Robots are kind of like similar to each other, but a lot of attacking artifacts, a lot of stuff popping onto the field, a lot of charge counters. The last one I want to talk about is Enderclave. It's a 6-drop with 2 red. It's a legendary artifact and it has flash. Costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. So each attacking creature, which should be a lot of your creatures, is going to make this cost a lot less to control. Whenever Enderclave enters the battlefield, you get to attach it to a target creature. So that's really good. And then it gets +1 and +1. It has Double Strike and Trample. So if you attach this, this is kind of an expensive card. That's kind of why it's in my bonuses. It's kind of hard to get a hold of. But if you have it, use it. It is crazy because you attack, you get a +1/+1, and you get Trample. And that's just going to be able to make sure that you get through everyone else with robots. So that's even cooler, I think. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. It's going to be a little different the next time you see me. I'm going to have a different type of content coming out. I think I'm going to drop a how-to video, not on how to build these commanders. I know that these have all been how-tos, but it's going to be a little bit different. All right, I appreciate you guys for watching. Happy casting.